Cherry.
What an ender.
The long-awaited Tom Holland Russo brothers team up. Russo brothers finally getting to do a project that's not an MCU product. Obviously, they're known for the Captain America, Winter Soldier, Civil War, the Endgame, and Infinity War movie from Avengers.
Mm-hmm.
So they finally got to do a little passion project, and this is based on a book of the same name by I had it on my note
Nico
here. Yes, thank you.
Walker, is it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Nico
The
Walker.
subject of the story. He wrote this, I believe, in prison.
Although I don't believe that the Tom Holland's ever actually named in the movie, if I'm
Yeah, I
recalling. Is
mean,
that? I don't know.
you know who
Yeah,
it's supposed to be.
yeah,
Whatever.
and basically it tells a story about Tom Holland's character Nico going from small town USA, finding some happiness in a relationship, having things fall apart, enlisting in the army right after 9/11. So going to fight over what I can't remember, was that Iraq he was in? I can't remember
Yep,
where.
that would be
Yeah,
Iraq. Yep.
probably. And then yeah, coming back from the war, experiencing a lot of horrific things, dealing with mental health issues, being prescribed Oxycontin,
PTSD.
yep, falling into uh, drug addiction and starting to rob banks because of it to feed the addiction, and finally getting caught. Along the way, there's a lot of extraneous parts of the movie, and there's a lot of interesting choices. This is incredibly stylized. But Dave, did it work for you?
No way. Nah, I thought Cherry was pretty big bad. And I had a feeling early on, like I knew the reviews were strong, but going in, I was like, oh, this is 2 hours 20 minutes. Oh, it's one of these. This is we're getting the whole story, huh? And then it starts off and we get Tom Holland doing narration, and I'm like, oh brother, no, don't do this to me, please. And the movie takes so long to get to where it's going. You have this whole middle part, like 30 whole minutes in Iraq, actually with his experience, and it's like well well shot moments of brief action, I suppose. But despite the horrors being conveyed there, we don't get anything like thematically actually nailed down about Tom Holland's character. And frankly, if we had cut that whole thing and just picked it back up when he came back from Iraq and had PTSD, I think we would have got it. It's not a novel concept or anything. So I think the movie is super indulgent, and like it tries to dress it up with all these stylistic choices, with these act cards, and when he does ecstasy and the colors all different, right? He only sees color on his soon to be girlfriend, and everything else is black and white, like stuff like that, like all these obvious choices. And when he's robbing a bank, in the back it says "shitty bank," it's like all this like
Yeah.
supposed to like window dressing and edginess. It doesn't actually service the movie well. So I think it's awfully messy. I understand why this book was optioned, why they wanted to adapt this story. There's intriguing parts about it, but I think the script is too messy and weak to kind of really nail anything. There's just too much going on.
Yeah, and interesting. So the screenplay actually comes from the Russo's sister, and so Angela Russo, Atsta, and Jessica Goldberg. But you know, I think it's just it's very fatty, like you mentioned, and I think it also just feels like a movie who had a very specific point to it and gets way more caught up in the things going on around the point. Because I mean I understand that at least what I took away from the movie was that the way that um, people who are looking for meaning in life sometimes find it, and then the way society can sometimes not support them after people make these huge sacrifices, these decisions, leads them to make kind of fall down this spiral of sorrow and bad choice after bad choice. Um, it just feels like it got so caught up in these moments that didn't matter. I in my head I keep thinking about when Tom Holland's working at the Italian restaurant and he's bartending and watching this. He's supposed to like watch this old guy who gets too drunk and is asking everyone if they could pull the trigger on and kill a man and shoot him in the head or something like that. And that scene went on for like 10 minutes, it felt like. And it could have just, if you really felt like you needed to like prove this point where you're like challenging if Tom Holland's the kind of guy who could do this and like has to be confronted with that question, okay, but like make it like 2 minutes. It doesn't need to be as long as it
Yeah. I mean,
is.
how many bank robbery scenes are there that are effectively the
God.
same thing? There's a few in the middle of that are just repetition, you know?
Yeah.
I
Same thing
actually
over
think
and over.
Holland's at his best in those scenes because his natural like charisma kind of comes out as he's ordering bank tellers what to do and stuff. But
Mhm.
ugh, I mean, to that point, like you get back from Iraq and it becomes a movie about the opioid crisis. That's what the Russos have been sticking to us about. This movie about the opioid crisis. Like, is it? Is it actually about that?
Right.
I mean, to me, Holland and Sierra Bravo, who plays his girlfriend,
Mhm.
so, did they get married? I don't know. But yeah,
Yeah, they do get married,
yeah,
yes.
his girlfriend and wife in the film, they look awfully young. I don't know if like the passage of time is super well conveyed in terms of them being strung out and on the brink and stuff. Like
Yeah.
I kind of struggle with that a little bit. But just to me, it's like if you want to focus on that, focus on that. You know, set it
Mhm.
up. He gets back from Iraq. There was way too much pretense and like prologue almost. You know,
Right.
like I think of like Beautiful Boy, which is a movie that I liked, but has a lot of detractors. But at least that is super focused on
Yeah.
what it's trying to be about. You know, obviously
Yeah.
Holland isn't on Chalamet's level, but the script is also not doing Holland any favors here.
Yeah, and I didn't feel like Holland in and of himself what like gave a bad performance. I agree. I think you're saying better what I was trying to say before, that this is a movie that is so interested in so many things that it kind of ended up saying nothing in a lot of ways. Um and I like you said, the book that it's commissioned off of is very interesting. I mean, the and I think the story is one that should be told, but I just think they tried to be almost like too Scorsese at times with this, too stylized, and never really got to the meat and potatoes of the movie. Um, I mean, I think there were some things that I liked in the movie. You mentioned the bank robbery scenes. I thought those pretty good. You mentioned the war scenes. I thought those were well shot, especially like when he encounters the first two people in the field who he has to provide medic
Yeah.
services to. I thought that scene was really well done. Or when the Humvee gets stuck, and that
Mm.
whole thing I thought was really good as well. Um, and I also thought, some of the stuff in the beginning, which I think the beginning is probably my least favorite part of the movie, but I think there are some moments that are kind of interesting. Like I thought it was really funny when he goes to visit his girlfriend at the party, and he's like, "You don't want to be the guy whose girlfriend is up there fucking a ghost," something like that. I thought that was pretty funny.
Oh, the
Um,
lighting for that party scene in that basement, I was like, "Oh, that
so
looks really
realistic.
nice."
Yeah.
It just doesn't really track with how he's describing it as some like frat
Well,
party concrete basement. I was like, oh, that looks pretty good. That looks pretty clean
I,
to me.
yeah, I was thinking of all the Albany houses I went to as a freshman at Siena, and I was like, yeah, none of them were lit
There's
this
also
nicely, but
plenty of room to walk around and like move
yeah.
your elbows and stuff. I was like, this is unrealistic.
But yeah, I thought there were some things in the beginning that like set up like the slow torture. I also kind of liked Coke, who was
Yeah, Jack
played
Rayner.
by Jack Rayner, my guy
Yeah.
from Midsommar. I thought everything with him was pretty like funny and just kind of like,
Hmm.
I don't know, entertaining. But also shout out to Damon Wayans, who just like pops up as the drill sergeant. I was like, oh, Damon Wayans,
Oh fuck
okay,
yeah, that's
yeah.
right.
And
I
I
mean,
believe,
speaking of those moments, his two childhood friends are played by uh, Gandolfini's son, who we saw
yep.
in The Deuce, and also Kyle, the rapper.
Yeah, which
Funny enough.
when I saw him, I was like, I think I know this guy. And I was like, when I looked up, I was like, Kyle, like, okay, sure. Um, and also, I did kind of like using Van Morrison on like the chapter cards or whatever as like a way of kind of like transitioning and telling the story. I mean, I think if you're gonna like pick an artist, you could pick a worse artist to do that with. But
Mm.
overall, I just some of it was way too stylized. Like you mentioned the bank names. I was kind of like, are they going with like a Mr. Robot thing here, where they're just trying to like, kind of like say whatever
Well,
doesn't
it's
matter?
just kind of like thrown in, like
Yeah.
there are moments where like Holland's like an unreliable narrator or his memory's fuzzy, but
Mhm.
it never stuck to that.
Right. Doctor whomever, you know?
Right?
But yeah, didn't feel like there was anything super poignant about those
No.
choices. So
Think about
yeah.
this: we have Holland's not post Marvel, but post Marvel blow up serious roles. We have this, and we have the Devil all the time.
Hmm.
He can do better, I think. Um, he gave some comments about the Uncharted film that finished filming. Has not left people thinking the movie's going to be too good. So, and obviously, Chaos Walking was just dumped recently and is supposed to be quite bad. A movie that was in development hell forever. So, there's room to grow for Tom Holland apart from Marvel. Let's leave it at that. He's still quite young.
And he's probably the best Spider-Man. So
Oh yeah, no,
I'll give him
nothing,
that.
nothing against him there. I just hope he can branch out more.